record from. All right, welcome everybody. Before we introduce our amazing speaker, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. We've been doing a lot of live events and more virtual events just to be able to spread to a bigger audience and our agents that are in different marketplaces and just collaborative relationships and partnerships that we have. And I wanted to just highlight this really quick because we have a lot of different agents on here from all over the place, all different backgrounds. We try to touch on very different avenues of the business to help the industry wherever it is that you're at, whatever type of business you're doing. And so anyone that doesn't know what the co-founders is, right? When you see that, or if you see that on some of the stuff we're marketing or flyers, the co-founders is just a high level network of top producing real estate agents. And it's this collaborative pool where we bring in agents like Amber McDonald. We had Gail DeMarco with us just a couple of weeks ago or so. We brought in, Powerhouse, Greg Harrelson, a handful of months ago, just different relationships and producers and coaches and marketing that we can bring to you guys and constantly provide value back to the industry. It's an open collaborative network. And so thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot of value out of these. And so we'll be announcing something coming up here soon with some of the live events that we're doing as well, these virtual training sessions that we're putting on. If anyone is ever looking for more information or just how to contact any of us, you can go to cofoundersgroup.com. And again, it's a high level real estate agent network, and we're always providing boots on the grounds training, very duplicatable processes like stuff you guys will learn today, as well as if you guys have heard us talk about the Breakfast Club. It's a very high level, high intensity sales training on master conversation around generation and conversion. So those interested in checking things out like that, go ahead and you can jump on there. We'll drop some things to you guys later that are just open that everyone can have access to. But with that said, Cooley, would you like to introduce our speaker?
Yeah, I would. So Amber McDonald, guys, for those of you guys who don't know, is a producer in the South End. She does about 80 plus transactions a year, does over $1 million in GCI. What's that? Personally. Yeah, and is the founder of Rally Point Properties, which is one of the top teams in Washington State. She's one of the best entrepreneurs that I know, and I use the word entrepreneur instead of agent on purpose, right? Because I think most agents are caught up in transaction to transaction to transaction. Amber's really focused on building a business in everything that she does. And I got to be honest with you, when I first met her, I was blown away by all of her systems, processes, scripts that she already had in place. And when we talk about somebody who has their shit together, Amber McDonald is that, okay? Also, it's anytime we bring these high-level producers on, guys, I know that we tend to think of them as levitating above the rest of us because they have their shit together, and sometimes we're just caught up in our own production. And so I just want everybody to understand that one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Amber McDonald is because she started from the ground up, right? She was given nothing, right? Everything earned. And those are the best people to learn from, right? We all know the real estate agents who were gifted with great spheres of influence and people that they knew rather than the work that they put in. Amber's the exact opposite of that. She's the one who started everything from the ground up, and she'll share a little bit more about her story. But she's out here kicking ass every single day, guys. And it's one of the most perfect people that you could learn from in our industry. She's making her mom proud. So with that being said, Amber McDonald, I hope you're ready to go. Share a lot of knowledge with us today. Kick some ass. And Michelle, go ahead.
And I'm going to add one thing, just because with Cooley, some of those things you listed on why, Amber, you're such a freaking rock star and amazing to learn from. But I want you guys to pay attention to some of the stuff she shares with you and the level of standards she has in her business, the level of standards she has with her team, the level of standards she has in her processes that she provides and runs is one of the biggest things that stands out to me with you, Amber. And I mentioned this in the promotion video that I did, the type of business model that Amber is running, right? Where it's 100% referral based, right? This is the business model that all of us ultimately want to be running. Would you guys agree? This is where all of us want to be, and it takes time, right? And Amber will talk about that, where she started, what she had to build to create what she is running now. And so I hope everyone has a lot of fun with this. Sorry, Cooley, I just wanted to add that. So Amber, now you can.
Thanks, guys. All right, guys, so I'm just going to jump in because we have a ton of stuff to go through, and Cooley's not lying about how long-winded I am. So I'm going to share my screen. I made a PowerPoint mainly for me because I am so long-winded and I will squirrel. So I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Bear with me here and make sure that we stay on track. And please, dear God, Cooley, bring me back down to earth if I start to go off on
Amber, you're doing great already. Let's go.
Thanks. All right, guys. So I am a co-founder. So we actually just moved over to EXP in September of last year, and it has exponentially changed my life and my business. And so we knew that we were going to make this a switch. Well, we didn't know we were going to make this switch, but we knew we were going to make a switch. We just didn't know where we were going to be. And so we were actually talking to different people at EXP for a couple of years on and off. About 4 months before we made the switch, we were interviewing with a ton of different brokerages. And we ended up meeting Michelle and Cooley, and we had multiple appointments with them and meetings with them. And I only sat with them one time, and we ended up signing 2 weeks later. Why I love them so much is because they care about our business, and they didn't have their own agenda. They didn't naysay how unique our business model is, like so many other people in my life has done. And I've never met anybody else that will message me like Cooley did one time and say, Amber, I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning working on your business. And that was when we were already over, and my mind was just blown. And I cried because I was like, this is what I've been looking for years. And I feel like we finally found our home. So that's a little bit of background on who we are within EXP, but we are newbies here. I'm still learning the model because when I sat with Michelle and Cooley, at first they tried to tell me about the stock shares and the rev share and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't care about that. I want to know how you're going to change my business. And now fast forward, I'm learning about all of those things. And I'm like, oh my God, this is life-changing. So to just jump right in and tell you guys a little bit about who we are and tell you about a little bit of background on us. My husband and I launched our team, Rally Point Properties, in 2018. And our core values on our team is the beating heart of our business. And so we had these core values within the first month of launching our team. We were very intentional with them and making sure that they aligned with who we are as people. And first and foremost, and why I'm going to go over this is just so you guys see this is where it started, and then we built our business model around it. And so first and foremost, making sure that every single client that we help is treated like family and never just another number. And that is very, very, very important. And that is how we created this referral-based business. Number 2 is education. We always lead with education. We want our clients coming to us. We don't get annoyed when they come to us. We don't have an attitude when we've already told them the same thing 3 times, but they just didn't get it and they're asking us again. We get excited when they come to us and we tell them, please, dear God, don't go to Google and don't go to social media and come to us. And why that is because of what I just said. If they're not coming to us as agents, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to the news. They're going to go to Google. They're going to go to their cousin Karen that never bought a house but thinks they know everything about our market. And they're going to, one, make our lives hell, but then also they're going to get misinformation, and then they're probably not even going to buy a house. And we've seen that all, I'm sure, where people get very overwhelmed and then they just stop altogether. And so our clients know that they can come to us, they feel safe coming to us, and we're always validating them when they do come to us, no matter how many times they ask the same question, because we want them coming to us because we are that expert and they know that. Next thing is expectations. So I'm going to give you guys a sentence that is going to change your morale and your relationship with your clients forever. And it's very, very easy. And so I want you guys to write this down and play a game with yourself. So we always give our clients expectations. Here's what's happening now. Here's what's going to be happening next. And I play a game with myself every single day. And this is whether I am texting somebody, if I just called them and congratulated them on getting a mutual accepted offer, if I'm leaving a listing appointment, if I'm leaving a buyer consult, whatever that looks like, I'm always ending with this one sentence. And that's, So here's what's going to happen next. So I want you to write that down, and I want you to play a game with yourself just for the next 30 days. And do that every single day. And it doesn't only have to be with your clients. It could be with your team members. It could be with your business partners. It could be with your spouse, right? And so start to implement that now and see how those relationships start to change. Next is communication. Communication is so important in every aspect of your life and your business. And why this is so important is because, in my opinion, our industry has a huge deficit when it comes to communication, and it will make or break your relationship and your future referrals, or not getting referrals, in the future. And why that is because we just don't have it. I can't tell you how many times I'm doing a cross deal with an agent and they just don't communicate. How many times we as agents forget to communicate with our lenders, when our lenders forget to communicate with us, so we don't know what's going on with our clientele. And most of all, when we're not communicating to our clients. So perception is everything. And if you're not being clear and cut and dry and black and white with your communication with your clients, they're going to make up their own story in their head. And nobody wants that to happen, right? And again, you can use this with your partners, your team, your clients, and your spouse and your friends and all of that. I mean, communication is such a pivotal point in our life. And so we care about people first. Every single day. That is my business model. And we genuinely and organically care about people first. We are very intentional with who we bring onto our team, and they all hold these same values. And why that is, guys, is because if you care about the people first and your paycheck second, that money's going to come. Now, if you're just faking it, they're going to see through that, right? So you genuinely have to care about these people. But if you care about the people first, the money will follow. But if you care about your money first, you're never going to stop chasing it. And you're going to be 20 years down the road still doing the same rat race that we're all trying to get out of, right? So that is a little bit about our core values. Our stats, I hate talking about myself and my numbers, so I'll just let you guys kind of read that, and Cooley already kind of said that. And then next, going over to our background. So little background on me, I started as a transaction coordinator. Never wanted to be a realtor. So I know, mind-blowing, right? TC, never wanted to be a realtor, breaking the mold, because I know what a lot of people say about that. I started in 2013 as a transaction coordinator. I was also a receptionist, making $8 an hour, 26 hours a week. And I never saw myself coming to where I am now. I was actually a nursing major. I told my whole family, my whole life, I'll never be in sales. I hate sales, right? Who can kind of relate to that? And what?
Not
Sorry,
cool.
not me. I
I
can't
know.
relate to that.
I know, exactly. And so I ended up coming here. My husband was active duty for 10 years. And so we were stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then we ended up coming here in 2016. And I fell back into real estate. So I honestly didn't even know the job I was interviewing for. And I was a TC for them for about a year. And the big question I get from people is, okay, Amber, if you never want to be a realtor, you hate sales. Guess what? Now you're in sales, right? And now you're addicted to this industry and you work all the time because I want to, not because I have to. What changed? And what changed was I went to a lunch. I was asked to come to a lunch simply because I was a military spouse and they wanted to build that rapport with the partner that they were talking to. And I heard their vision and I learned about the VA loan. And I had a passion ignite in my soul. And I left that lunch and I looked at my colleague and I said, I'm going to quit nursing school and I need to do this. This is what I feel like I'm supposed to do with my life. And I ended up telling my husband, who was in Korea, that I was quitting nursing school. I'm pretty sure I gave him a heart attack at that time because he's like, wait, what's happening? I left. Now you're changing your whole life path. And why I tell that story is because when I teach these classes or I sit on panels, I have people come to me at the end and they always ask me the same question, Amber, how do I get in front of military? And I don't want to say that that's a bad question, because it's not, but I don't know how to answer it. And it's because I didn't get my license and then say, I'm going to get in front of military. I caught a passion in my soul. And then I knew that I needed to get my license to execute this vision that I had. Now, Ryan and I had just come off of a couple really tough moves. We're going to do an in-class or an in-person class in September that you'll hear my whole story. And I was in a really dark place at that time. And I felt like I didn't have a voice. I felt like I had no control over my life. I definitely didn't have control over what was going on with my husband's life. And this was my piece where I felt like I can finally control something and I could make an impact in the world. And so what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to write on your piece of paper, what am I passionate about? Because if you say, well, Amber helps military, that's how you're going to be successful, it's not going to work for you unless you actually align with that passion. And for me, I had a passion and I built my business around it. And you guys can do that too with my business model, right? And so I want you to write that down and say, what am I passionate about? And over the next couple of weeks, I want you to really meditate on that. And it might take some time, but really be genuine with that and see what sets your soul on fire. And then below that, I want you to write who. Because any type of passion you have, there can be a who to that. And that's going to be the first step of building a business like I have. See. All right, so going to the next portion here. Sorry, I'm just moving this out of the way. So this is a quote that resonated with me, and I want to share with you guys. Winning is great, sure, but if you are really going to do something in life, the secret is learning how to lose. Nobody goes undefeated all the time. And if you can pick up after a crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion. Now, I know losing sucks, right? And I know that we all have an ego inside of us, but if you can accept that loss and fall in love with failing very quickly, you're going to elevate a lot faster, okay? And nobody wins every day. Nobody wins every day, but you're going to still keep going, and you're never going to truly fail unless you quit. And so you need to get more comfortable with that feeling of losing and failing forward, because that's what's going to elevate you, and you're going to continue to break through those glass ceilings a lot faster. And if you spend more time focusing on how you can come back from those fail forward moments and focusing how you can better your craft because you lost, you're going to build a lot faster, and you're going to have a lot really more successful life, but really you're going to spend a lot more time building a fucking legacy. And that's what we all want, right? And so what I want you guys to do today is I want you to take that ego inside you that we all have. And my team will probably laugh right now because I say it on a weekly basis. Having an ego in this industry will kill you, and it truly will. And I see it every single day. So I want you to take that ego that you have. I want you to take all those limiting beliefs of all of the, well, what if I get hung up on? And what if a door slams in my face and I'm totally going to suck and I'm going to fail and all these things. And I want you to lock it up, and I want you to just compartmentalize it and just do it. And I want you to say good. Every single time you feel like you lost, I want you to say good. And Megan on my team is going to put a link in the chat for what I'm talking about here. Ryan, my husband, sent a video to us about a month ago when we were having a really rough week. I mean, we were getting kicked over and over and over again. And he sent this video to us. So watch that later. But I want you to just be happy when you lose. And obviously have that moment of like, that sucked, right? But then figure out what you can do different and then grow from that. And that's what's going to separate you guys from everybody else, really. So I had to get really comfortable with losing because, like Cooley said in the beginning, I didn't have anything here. So I came here on a whim because I didn't want to stay in San Antonio when my husband went to Korea for a year, and that's where we were at the time. And we were supposed to come here, but they changed his orders last minute, and he ended up going to Korea. And I said, I'm not staying here. I'm just going to go to JBLM and I'll figure it out. And now I didn't have any friends here. I didn't have any family. I had no sphere. I had nobody. And when I wanted to become a realtor and I got licensed, my team lead at the time, because I did start on that team for a year, he said, okay, Amber, I want you to come prepared with 100 contacts on your first day. And my first thought was, oh my God, how am I going to go meet 100 people in 24 hours? Like, there's no way, right? Because that's how my brain works. I'm like, okay, let's just get there. And then I started to be more intentional and get more strategic. And I realized, no, I don't have 100 contacts here because I know nobody. You guys are the only people I know, but I do have people in San Antonio. I have people at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I have people in California because that's where I'm from. And so I brought 100 contacts and they were all outside referral type sphere. And so at that time, I felt like I was coming from a deficit because I said, I have no sphere, and everybody builds their businesses, like I thought at that time, off of a sphere. But really, I was coming in with a leg up because I couldn't lean on what was comfortable. And that's what we do time and time again, is we lean on what's comfortable because we don't want to do the hard stuff. And at the end of the day, you guys, remember, I had a vision and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make the impact in my community that I wanted to without having business. Because if I didn't have business, I can't help anybody else, right? So I knew that I needed to get that business, and I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I was just going to do it all. And I'm a born grinder. My mom raised me to be a grinder from very, very young. And me and Ryan came from a really dark place, like I said, that I'll talk about at a different time. And we always just have that mindset of failing is not an option. We just aren't going to quit. We're just going to do whatever it takes. And so that's what I did. So these are some of the things that I did in my first year. And what I want you guys to do is don't choose what's comfortable. Don't choose what's comfortable, get uncomfortable, and go 100% all in. So door knocking for me is what I did. I did door knocking, open houses, social media, even though at that time I was laughed at every day because they were like, social media is never going to bring you business, which is so funny. Fast forward, right? And then my referral network, I focused on that. I did do cold calls, even though it was not something I was even close to being comfortable with, but I still did it. And then joining a couple of nonprofits and then meeting local businesses. So I kind of did a plethora of things, and I time blocked. And I didn't door knock and say, well, I door knocked 50 houses and I didn't get any leads, so that's not going to work for me. I did these activities consistently, and the stats and results will tell you where your focus should be within 3 to 6 months. And even though for me, door knocking actually did work for me, that's one of my niches. Door knocking, social media, my referral network, and community outreach. Those were my main points of my business that worked. But even when those started to work and social media really blew up, I didn't stop the other activities. I knew that what I wanted to do was a lot bigger than me, and I needed to just keep going all in. So do the activities, you guys. And even when you have that debilitating fear of failure, just do the activities. And that's just it. It's very, very simple, and time block and stay consistent.
I think that's where most people give up, right, Amber, is they start doing an activity for a week or for 30 days and it's not panning out. And then you just feel like a failure and you stop, right?
Exactly.
That's where most people quit. And so the emphasis of pushing forward, guys, whether it be your prospecting, expireds, door knocking, whatever you're doing now, you've got to make sure that you give yourself enough time for that to pay off. Right, Amber?
Exactly, 100%. And that's where that ego, throwing it into a cabinet and locking it up, and really visualize that every morning and manifest that. Reese on my team just got licensed yesterday, and we're so excited for her. And last week, before she took her test, I told her, I said, hey, you're flying the coop, because she's a TC right now with us. And I said, are you ready? And she said, hell yeah. I said, are you ready to fail a ton? Are you ready for me to say, no, 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 you're going to lose, you're losing, you're losing, you're losing, you're losing. And she said, hell yes. And why she said hell yes is because she knows me, and she knows that I want her to fail forward as fast as she can, so she can get past that and she can basically do the business that she wants to do. So absolutely, you want that no, right? Every no is one step closer to a yes. So go for the no's. And that's an actual thing somebody taught me once. So stop chasing the leads and start serving them. I was not kidding when I said I did not like sales. And it's just not really who I am at that time, right? I am actually the best salesperson that I know, and nobody ever knows that I'm selling them anything. And that's why I say I'm the best, because you never know that I'm being salesy, because I'm not salesy. And so back then, though, I knew that I would never go the long haul with this business if I had to chase leads every day. And why I knew that is because it didn't bring me joy. I got into this lifestyle in this industry for a different reason. And so if you can resonate with that and you kind of feel that same way of like, this doesn't make me excited, this model will work for you very well. And so I knew I have the lead, right? Why am I just going to take that lead and then leave it on the table? I'm going to take that lead. I'm going to service that lead. I'm going to give them the best service they've ever seen. I'm going to wow them every single day. And then I'm going to watch that one lead turn into 5 leads, which just happened to me last week. And then I'm going to watch that 5 leads turn into 20 leads, and then 30 leads, and then 40 leads. My clients come to me most of the time. I don't go find them. These are actual reviews from my clients, and these are actual screenshots of text messages from people literally coming to my phone. And my main focus during the day is basically turning lead and booking appointments. I still lead gen, but my lead gen just looks a little bit different. So our process is very intentional, not accidental. I do have that TC mindset, even though that's not a strong suit for me. My D on the DISC assessment, if you guys know what that is, went from very, very low when I was a TC to through the roof. So I am not good in the TC role anymore. However, that mindset made me realize that I need to create processes. So anytime something didn't work, anytime I failed, anytime I got feedback that I asked for from every single client, I took that, I meditated on it, and then I built a process around it. And the first thing that I can tell you guys, if you don't have a consult, you need to make a consult today. And I know that there's probably some people out there that are like, I've never needed a consult and I do fine. But do you want to do fine or do you want to do great? Right. And if you want to do fine, and if you just want to kind of keep chasing those leads and chasing your business and kind of feeling the anxiety of the everyday to day, that's fine. But if you want to build an actual business, you need a consult, and that's where it starts. And in your consult, you want to show value in your knowledge of not only the process of buying, but also the current market. So when I first started, again, I had no background in actually selling homes. And it was very, very, very self-conscious because I didn't know anything about houses. And I was very bad at geography, which I still kind of am. But I knew that I needed to build my knowledge around that, because I knew that, one, I had no sphere here. Not to say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm also a woman, and I was very young at the time. And I had a lot of people above me and a lot of people that were in this for 20, 15 years, right? And I felt like I had all those limiting beliefs coming in my brain, especially because I had my own mentors at the time telling me that I was never going to be successful because I wanted to serve only military. And so I took time every single day and I studied houses, and I studied different names of siding, and I looked at the market, and I looked at the stats, and I looked at the numbers. And so if you don't have 30 minutes on your calendar once a week to look into the MLS and truly know your facts and stats and numbers, do that and watch how much confidence you have going forward when you're talking to clients. I don't second guess myself, and I'm very confident when I talk to anybody because I know my numbers. And I know that at the end of the day, I can be talented, but I'm also going to be extremely intelligent when it comes to this too, because you guys always hear it, right? Like, I forgot what the term is, but it's basically like knowledge can outbeat talent any day. But could you imagine if you had talent and the knowledge back to back? That's what I made for myself, basically. And so definitely put that on your guys' calendar. And I'm going to share with—
Can I say something? Can I say something really quickly? Because really quickly, there's one thing that I want you guys to know. Although Amber is 95% referral based, it doesn't mean that she's not out there still competing for deals. You know what I mean? And so she's out there still competing for deals and competing with other agents. And if you knew her actual numbers, guys, and her percentage of actual wins when she's competing with another agent, it's insane. Like, it's not even close. It's almost 100%. And so I want you guys to understand that just because you have a referral-based business doesn't mean that you're not out there competing. And so when Amber's talking about the need for knowledge, right, and the need for confidence to go out there and win, this is a big part of it and why she's so successful. Sorry, Amber, go ahead.
No, thank you. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to give you guys 3 pages from my personal consult that you can add today in your consult that will change your relationship with your clients and create referrals in the future. And so 70% of people avoid hard conversations. And what I love about the Breakfast Club so much is Cooley is teaching us how to get over and overcome objections. But imagine if you take what he's given us and you actually don't wait for the objection to happen and you get in front of it and say it first. Could you imagine how that would change that conversation? And why I say that is because if somebody's coming to me and I haven't already headed it straight on and they ask me a question, I still have my confidence, but I instantly am like, man, I missed that one, right? I should have came to them first. And why that is because I know that they know I'm in sales. And so even if I answer it correctly and I answer it with confidence, there's a part of them going to say, okay, you practiced that pretty well, right? But if I go to them first and I basically tell them exactly what I know they're already thinking and call out the elephant in the room, they're going to trust me 100%. Why? Because I'm not scared to talk to them about it. And so start to implement that too and try to take those scripts that Cooley's giving you and that you already know and practice, and then morph it to where you can just call out the elephant in the room and watch how much easier it is to sign that lead. So get in front of objections, and it can start with your consult. Here are 3 pages of my consult that make my life easier, so much easier, because I am not chasing my client once we're under contract, and I'm not trying to pick up all the pieces on all the things I didn't already teach them. And also it's going to make your client's experience 10 times better. So everyone has an opinion. And full disclosure, you guys, I morph my scripts per the personality. Knowing personalities and knowing how to interact with different personalities is also a superpower of mine. I'm going to dive deep into that in this class that Michelle's going to talk to you guys about in September. But just to kind of give you a brief look at what I say. So everyone has an opinion. Mr. Buyer, this page is not to tell you not to ask your friends and family for advice. What this page is just to tell you, don't get overwhelmed with all the different opinions that are now going to come in your face because people know that you're looking to buy a home. So you're going to start to, see things on the news. You're going to have your cousin from Kentucky that bought a house 30 years ago and thinks they know our market here in Washington. And now with this shifting market, you're actually going to have a friend that probably bought 6 months ago and thinks they know our market here in Washington. Now, again, definitely ask them. That's how you got connected with me. I'm very happy that you did ask them for their advice. However, if you are feeling anxiety about something, or if you're feeling something or hearing something that just doesn't resonate well with you, please come straight to me and tell me. If you can't already tell from my previous pages in this consult, I'm very direct and transparent. So if it's true, I'm going to tell you. But if it's not true, I'm going to give you the facts and stats as to why that's not true. And then we'll talk through it to make sure you feel comfortable. Does that sound good? And then they say, oh yeah, thanks, Amber. And then what happens is 2 weeks later, their cousin George from Kentucky is like, you shouldn't buy a house because the news said not to, and the rates are terrible and blah, 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 right? And they're like, oh man, Amber said that they were going to say this. I'm not really going to listen to that guy, but I am going to go tell Amber why and what I'm feeling, right? And so my goal with this, and I know everybody's muted, so if anybody wants to unmute and answer, what do you guys think my goal is with this page? Or a couple goals that I have.
Building trust.
Trusted advisor.
And being the expert.
You're the point of contact.
Exactly. All of those. That's the goal with that one page. And also with that, what you said, I want them to trust me. I am the subject matter expert, and I'm telling them right now, and I'm predicting the future because I know that that's going to happen because we see it time and time again. And so when it does happen, I'm basically taking all of those people's credibility and I'm throwing it in the trash, right? Because
No,
I said it
is, but
first.
it isn't. It's like,
What was that?
I might have muted someone trying to ask a question.
You're also keeping the clients realistic.
Exactly. And so now the biggest thing that I will say is if you and when you put this into your consult, When they come to you, if you push them off or act irritated or shut them down or get salesy on them, it's going to do the opposite effect, because now they trusted you and now you just broke that trust. So you have to communicate in a way that they're going to continue to come to you. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple pages. So here's a second page that you guys can implement today. And this is watch your spending and credit. So big flashing red lights, Mr. Buyer. If you don't take anything away from what I'm teaching you today, I want you to take this page away. And so did your lender, MK Bruce, talk to you about how you want to be on a credit freeze? And then if it's MK Bruce, they're going to say, oh yeah, of course he did, right? Because MK is great. And then I'm going to say, okay, great. So just as a reminder, I want you to make sure that you don't open any credit cards, close any credit cards, or spend a lot of money outside of your means. Always pay all of your bills. Don't deposit cash, and basically don't do anything unless you ask MK first. This is not a type of situation where you're going to do it and pray that they don't find out, because I promise you they're going to find out. And there are buyers that have lost their home 24 hours before they got keys because they got excited, which you will, and they saw the July 4th sale and they're like, I want to buy the sofa. I'm going to buy the flat screen. I'm so excited for my house. And that's all good, but you don't want to do it until I give you the keys, because they will run another report on your credit, a soft pull, and they will see that. And if they see that, they're going to have flashing red lights go off for themselves. It's going to red flag the lender, and they may get scared, and then they're not going to want to lend to you. And I say it like that because I kind of want to dumb it down for them, because they don't buy houses every single day, right? And does anybody know what my goals are for this page, especially with a buyer that said, yes, my client or my lender did already teach me this? Why would I still go in depth with it?
Same thing, you know, you're the person that has the knowledge, that understands how the process works.
Protecting your business, preventing catastrophe.
Right.
All of that. Yes. And so
a united front between you and the lender and the client.
yes. Thanks, babe. And so that's the big one too. And that's the underlining one. We want our clients to know me and their lender, we're a team. Even if it's not my preferred lender, I'm going to make myself their teammate if they like me or not. Why? Because I'm bringing value to my clients and I'm their advocate, right? And so with this, yes, everything you guys said, and buyers hear 20% of what we say. And so you'll find with my business model, I repeat myself multiple times. When I say something on the phone, I'm following it back up in writing because I know that they're only catching 20% of what I'm saying. And a lot of times, even with people like MK or a couple of my other partnered lenders who I know tell them these things, I'll ask them every time. And sometimes they're like, no, they didn't say that. And in my head, I'm like, yes, they did. But thank God I do this, right? I have never to date as a buyer agent on the listing side that just ended my track record last week. But on the buyer side, I have never lost a transaction because of financing to date, knock on wood. And I don't intend to. And it's because I'm very intentional with these types of things in my consult. Let's see. Going to the next one here. So locking in your interest rate. So I'm not going to go in depth on my script with this one here, but I will be doing it in September. And why that is because, again, I change what I'm saying given what the market's doing that week as far as the market update. But I do give a market update in my consult. So make sure that you pull your stats and pull your numbers and head that conversation on. There is one part of my consult where I do talk about the market that I'll share with you right now. And I tell my clients that they just earned the best seat at the table with getting pre-approved in this market. And why that is because a lot of buyers right now are struggling and they can't get pre-approved. So kudos to you, Mr. Buyer, for actually having the financial picture that is allowing you to take the opportunity that's in front of you in this market. And then I do go on and on with just the education of it. It depends on the type of client and if they're a first-time home buyer or if they're pretty savvy with what the market's doing. But why I say that first and foremost is because all they hear in their world, and this is just the world in general, is negative, 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 and it's constantly coming in their face. And they're so excited about buying a house, but so many other people, like their cousin Bob, is like ruining it for them, right? And so I want to reignite that excitement for them. And that's what I do. And that's what your job is in your consult, is excite them about this while still giving them the facts. Right? Don't lie to these poor people. I call out the interest rates every single day and I tell them it's the talk of the world. The interest rates are really high and it's really sad, right? However, then I go into what the market's actually doing and how they can refinance in the future. Now, locking your interest rate, this page, I tell them, now MK just pre-approved you. Congratulations again. We're so excited for you. Now, he probably gave you, an estimated rate of what we're seeing today, but just know, Mr. Buyer, that you can't actually lock that rate in until we have a signed around contract. And now I'm not telling you this to ever pressure you into buying. And if anybody ever does that to you, you should probably fire them or remove them from your life, because you should never be pressured into buying. But what I am saying is I'm super excited you got pre-approved, and now you're taking the steps to do the activities to get to your end goal and get to the finish line. And so don't ever feel pressured to buy, but let's get out there. Let's start seeing homes. And when we do that, you're going to get that much closer to then sign around a contract. And then you can talk to MK. He's going to be the guru with rates. He's going to talk to you about what rates look like at that time. And I'm going to make sure he runs numbers before we get under contract, so you do see a little bit of a closer look of what that's looking like today. Now, my goal with this is because rates are changing. And I'm sure a lot of us have seen where a buyer gets under contract and then they freak out because, one, their lender didn't run the numbers. So always make sure they're running the numbers. Or two, they're like, well, MK told me it was 6% last month and now it's like 7.5%. What happened, right? And so you always want to tell them that. And it's also encouraging them, number one, not to feel pressured. So if any of my competition is pressuring them, I just wiped them out. And number two, it's also telling them, do the activities, right? You want to get out there, let's start seeing homes, and you're going to find the right one. All right. I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock. So during the transaction, so you guys, this is, again, we have the transaction. Please stop leaving these poor people once they get under contract. Like, serve the clients. You're under contract, and that's your referral base. That's your future business in a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, right? And so during the transaction, always over communicate, bond, and be real. Now, have some common sense, right? Don't get like trashed with your client and like say a bunch of crazy things so they're like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this person. But be real, be genuine, and joke with them, or whatever that means for your personality. They want to know who you are. They want to feel connected to you because they're making the largest purchase or sale of their entire life. So be there for them and don't come off scripted, right? And you're not going to come off scripted if you're actually practicing every single day. It's just going to be natural. Have fun, but be serious when it comes to, when it's time to get to work. And then don't bail when situations get tough. So I am going to tell you guys a quick story because I think that this will really tell you guys why and how this model works more than just me talking at you. So I've had one client in my entire career tell me at the end that they didn't find my consult valuable. One client, and it killed my soul. I cried that night. I was really sad because my ego came out. I was like, man, my consult's like my bread and butter. How did they not find it valuable? How I knew that is because I asked at the end. I asked them, do you think this was valuable? Do you feel a little bit better about the situation? And I genuinely want to know, right? These guys got up halfway through my Zoom and started baking a chicken. Okay. They barely even like were looking at me, but I didn't stray, even though I'm a people pleaser by nature. So my brain was like, they don't care about this. I'm just going to rush through it. But my brain knows that if I rush through it, it's not going to work how I want it to work, and I'm doing them a disservice. So I continued, even though they were baking the chicken. I asked them for the recipe just to try to make it light. And when they told me that they didn't find it valuable, and they actually said they did think it was a little bit of a waste of their time, I said, thank you so much for the feedback. Even though my ego was kind of shattered and I felt really sorry for myself, I said, thank you so much for the feedback. Do you think that, you can give me some growth opportunities for that. And they did. They said, well, Amber, we bought and sold a bunch of houses. I don't really need to know about first-time home buyer stuff. Since then, this was 3.5, 4 years ago. Since then, that's why I now morph my consult per the person. And I still hit all the marks, but I just changed my scripts to make sure it is valuable for them. Now, fast forward, that one client who I thought hated me, I continued the transaction too. It never got better. They were just very like dry and did not love us, or so I thought. But I still did everything I do because I know that my model works and I care about them, right? And we still followed up and we still invited them to our events, even though they never came. And I was still on social media, and I know that they watched my social media, but they never interacted. Now, fast forward, they called me about a month and a half ago when I was on the way to Hawaii, and they said, hey, Amber, we want to sell our $614,000 house. And oh yeah, I want to upgrade and I want to buy $1 million property. We just closed on that property yesterday. We closed on their sale on Friday of last week. And their purchase was great, but their sale was to date, and Cooley can attest to this because my whole mindset was like, oh my God, doing all the haka breathing and trying to like ground myself. And it was the worst transaction of my entire career. And it shook me, but I kept my professionalism. I didn't bail. I was on an island by myself. Nobody wanted to help me, right? The agent like literally stopped responding. The lender was gone. And I was just trying to like fight the good fight. And during all of that, even though I protected them from a lot of it until I couldn't anymore. And then I needed to bring them into it. It was very stressful for them. We got them to the finish line. We didn't even extend, thank God. And during all of that, they referred me 3 clients. And now I'm going to sell his dad a house in about 2 months. I'm going to sell his sister a house in about a year. And I listed their next door neighbor's house. So my for sale sign is up on 2 houses back to back. And you bet your ass I'm going to farm that entire neighborhood. And so don't bail when situations get tough. Say good. And then keep going and fight for your client, because those tough situations is when the referrals happen and the magic happens. And get yourself a bottle of tequila if you drink.
She had her meltdowns on the phone with me, not with her clients.
I know that Eeyore thing you posted. I was like, he's talking to me. Yes, and that's what it is I was just continuing to say, I'm a professional. I have to keep them grounded. This client is type A. This is the worst client for this to happen to. And I'm a professional. So I executed it, and I drank and cried to my husband at night, right? And that's what we do, is we're there for our clients, and they are trusting us to get them to the finish line. And then let's see, if you're checking out or going on vacation, prepare, set expectations, and put people in play to make sure your clients are covered. You guys, I can't count how many times people call me and they're like, hey, Amber, I know you got this listing going on. I'm not going to be there for like a week. So like my clients can't see it, but can you just tell me if it's still available next week? And I'm like, it's not going to be available next week because I'm very intentional with my listings and we already have 2 offers, right? And so I just got a cash buyer last week because their agent did not sign a buyer rep. I asked, because we are not the type to poach clients. So first thing I said to him was, hey, please call your agent. If you have any issues, call me back. He called me back and he said, Amber, I can't, or he can't show me at all this weekend. He's gone on vacation. He has nobody to help me. I said, well, I'm not somebody that wants to step on the toes of another agent. We really respect our fellow agents. Did you sign a contract with him? And he said, no, I signed no contract. And I said, okay, well, I have an agent that can show you in about 30 minutes. And my agent showed them, they're a cash buyer and they're signing with us next week. And so put people in play, and please, dear God, have these guys sign a buyer rep, because somebody will take them from you, and they're not really taking them from you because you never had them to begin with. So do your due diligence. But even if you're not on a team like us, anytime I go on vacation, I have backup plans on backup plans on backup plans. So I can actually go and enjoy my vacation and not be stressed out that I'm going to lose a ton of business or I'm going to upset my clients. Communication, and now we're going to start to get into some little teasers that we're going to go through in September, but this is a formula that you can implement right now. And I'm going to deep dive into this in September because there's a lot of different ways you can do this. But again, perception is everything. So whether you're on the phone, whether you're on text, whatever that looks like, if they come to you and your clients come to you asking a question, or they're upset, or you're giving bad news, you can write this down or screenshot it. Validate first. If you don't validate first and you just go into go mode of answering, in your mind, you're like, oh my God, let me help you. In their mind, they're like, well, am I bugging you? Because you sound kind of annoyed and your tone is this way. And especially if you're texting people, that's where it can really go up in flames. So always start with validation, then bring the facts or an action plan. Over explain. Now you don't have to explain like me, because I write novels and I like talk to Cooley for 12 minutes, right? But over explain and be very black and white with exactly what you're trying to say, because you don't want them to start that story in their head, right? And that's how they get frustrated. They don't feel like they can come to you anymore, or they're just going to go hire somebody else because they don't feel like you're actually there for them. And then end with positive or encouraging close. I call myself like the Dr. Phil of real estate. And I'm always encouraging people and trying to pump people up. And that's what they need from you, especially when they're stressed out. Put yourself in their shoes of what they're dealing with right now. And then always reiterate in writing. I had somebody tell me one day, they said, Amber, if you haven't been sued yet, you're not doing enough business. I do a ton of business and I've never been sued, and I don't ever plan on it. And that's because I'm very intentional with what I say, and I back everything up in writing, and we're extremely compliant with everything. Always get connected. And I know we're kind of running low on time here. So just a couple more pages, you guys. So we're going to go through again my deep dive on how to follow up with your clients in September. But once you have that client, remember, you're fostering that client and you want that client to go out and bring you business, right? And so stay in front of them. Now, we personally reach out to every single past client, there's a lot of them, at least 4 times per year via phone call. And there is a full process and system to this that I'll share with you in September. And all you need is 1 to 2 hours per week. So what I want you guys to do between now and September, when you guys come to my class, or if you listen in virtually, is I want you to carve out 1 to 2 hours per week for past client follow-up. And that's all it takes me. And honestly, sometimes it doesn't even take me the full hour, because it depends on where I'm at on the list at that time. So put that in your time block, and then you'll be ready to implement that, and you won't have to do any guesswork when you come in September. Social media. I don't have a social media that I have 16,000 followers. That's not my goal with social media. I do have a decent amount on Facebook. I think we have close to 5,000 friends on Facebook. And then on my personal Instagram, we just started being more intentional. So we have a little over 1,000. My social media is another touch point for my clients and my referral base. And so that's what I'm intentional for. I don't go into social media trying to get strangers to come find me, even though they do. I focus on my social media to touch my clients and see who's looking at my story. Look at who's looking at your stories, look at who's liking and commenting on your posts, and then interact with them, and then call them and continue to build that relationship, because they already want to be in your world. Now you just have to kind of bring them in, right? So on social media, be real. Please, dear God, you guys, stop only talking about real estate. And I'm so sorry if you feel like I'm attacking you and you do that. It's not a bad thing that you didn't know that. I used to do that, but please, please, please stop only talking about real estate. People are going to unfollow you. They get annoyed. They do want to know what you're doing, and you want to bring real estate into it. But don't only make that your entire social media. And then connect and interact and bring value. Bring value from real estate. You want to create that reputation for yourself, and also bring value just in life. I'm a huge advocate for mental health and for fellow moms and postpartum depression. And I bring that into my social media. It's a little scary because you're being super vulnerable. But that's something that I felt that I can make an impact for people. And that's something that I'm passionate about. Events. So we do a ton of events. Your people want to see you and keep a relationship with you. Create for future business by throwing parties. Seriously, that's what I do. I throw parties and I hang out with people. I don't ask my clients for referrals at those parties. I don't ask my clients for referrals at those parties. I don't ask my clients for referrals at those parties. And why that is because then you are not genuine anymore. And they think that the only reason they're there is so you can get business. But I leave every single event bare minimum with 2 appointments on my books. And that's just happens organically. Am I still okay, Cool, if I go like 5 more minutes?
Go.
You
Okay.
are good.
Okay. So if you want to build a referral-based business, you must take off your horse blinders. Now, when I was a brand new agent, I had my team lead at the time say, Amber, this is what you look like every day. And they were like, you're a racehorse and nobody's with you anymore. And you're just like going. But if you're going to go the distance with this, you need to take off your horse blinders. And you need to see the full picture and you need to systematize your time. And so you want to prioritize and time block your day. And this is going to feel very uncomfortable to hear because it's probably very different from what a lot of people have taught you. I know that because I was taught the complete opposite of this. It just doesn't work for my business model. So time block your day. I change my calendar a lot. If it's not working for me, I change it. And my team is probably laughing because like every 6 months, I'm like, I'm changing it again because I'm not actually doing my calendar. It's not working for me. And I get bored. So when we went to Greg Harrelson's class, that was just fire. I left that class and I realized I need to get more intentional with my calendar. I time block, but I don't actually do what I should be doing every single day. And this has changed my business a ton. And so I do everything that I should be doing by noon every single day. And if I get pulled for some reason, or if a transaction has a fire, like I just went through, I'm going to move one of those time blocks over to the next day. And now it's going to be first on my list. I'm not going to do anything else until I do that. But then my afternoon is if I have appointments, if I need to put out any fires, if I need to do some other team building, things like that. So number 1, serve your transactions first. You have the business, you guys. Cater that business and create your referral business in the future. So don't just have that transaction and then put it last, like a lot of people have probably taught you. Put them first. Don't have your horse blinders so your entire day is on your transaction, because then your whole business is going to go like this, like a roller coaster, right? You have to be intentional with your time. I spend an hour on my transactions, if that. I meet with my TCs. I do a full rundown. I give them everything they need to be able to do their job. And then I'm like the rah-rah person for my clients, unless there's a fire, and then I step in for that. Number 2, service your active business. You have the leads. Stop getting the appointment. Stop signing these people and then leaving them and just going to get more leads. Get the active business, service the business. So somebody like me doesn't now take that business because you just forgot about it, right? And then lead gen. If you're not lead genning every single day, you're going to continue to have that roller coaster of a business. So when I first started, I would do 1 deal. And then the next month I'd do 6 deals. And then the next month I'd do 2 deals. And then the next month I'd do 7 deals. And it was not consistent. And it didn't get consistent until I got consistent. And then number 4 is business building. So if you want to get out of this rat race, you got to think big picture, right? So start to build your business out. Outsource and elevate. You're going to start to see that ceiling, right? And you're going to break through a lot of glass ceilings. And then all of a sudden, you're not going to be able to break through it. And it's going to be hard, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to be at capacity. And that's when you know you need to outsource. Because when you're implementing my business model, you're going to start to have, over a span of time, a flood of business come in. And so when you feel that, before it gets too late, drop your ego, because I know a lot of us think that we're the only ones that can do the job. I promise you that's your ego. It was mine too. Felt very attacked when somebody told me that. And then start to outsource, and don't only outsource your business, outsource your personal life, especially for those of us that have kids, that have spouses, if you're dual income, if you're not, whatever that looks like, don't be scared to outsource your personal life. And I just made that change in the last year and a half, and it has changed both my business and my life and my time with my kids a ton. And then when you do that, that's when you're really going to start to elevate. But it starts with dropping that ego and knowing that if you teach people the right way, you give them their standards and expectation and what you expect, right? And you give them that in a black and white form of, this is the standard, this is what I expect, I'm going to teach you how to do this, and then let it go and trust that you've hired the right people. And hire fast, fire fast. Last page here. If you guys follow me, you can do this QR code. If you follow me and DM me on Instagram, you will get the editable versions of these pages and my scripts that I already have written out that you can kind of morph into your own thing. And then you can also see firsthand how I conduct my social media and how intentional I am. And this picture is this morning. It's on my story right now. Couldn't have happened at a better time because I'm teaching this class. And my client tagged me in this and is raving to all of his friends. This client just moved out of here to Hawaii, and I met him 3 years ago. He's probably given me maybe 15 or 20 leads over the last 3 or 4 years. And he's still continuing to give me those leads, even though he's not even here anymore.
Love it.
Sorry, that was a lot at the end. If I talk,
You're out of breath now. I love it.
I know, because I'm like, I saw the time and I'm like, oh man, this is all things I want to give you guys, but we're going to go a lot more in depth in September on some of these other aspects of my business.
So I want to touch on this first real quick, and then Amber, one, thank you, because that was incredible. I want to have a few minutes for some questions. I know some people have been putting questions in the chat, but this answers one of them, guys, on how you can follow Amber, one, to see how she's providing.
So it's so cool, guys. Her social media is so cool. If you see the way that she interacts with her clients and the way that her clients interact with her, it's like, it's really the dream for a real estate agent. You can tell why her clients love doing business with her. One of the things that Amber does really well is, you know, and I think we said this on the flyer, is doing business with Amber is like an experience. It's not a transaction that they're going through. She's really built an actual culture for her clients that they want to be a part of. You know what I mean? They do this thing called Friendsgiving every single year where they invite all of their past clients and they're posted on social media and everybody's having a blast. And it's really cool to see, because I know, because I coach a lot of real estate agents, and you don't see that shit. You don't see people actually engaging with their clients. It's like, hey, did the transaction, here's some fucking soap. You know what I mean? Here's your closing gift. Good luck. I'll call you in a couple of months and ask you for some business, right? And so,
sorry, Clay. I think that's those limiting beliefs too, because I felt it. I felt it with my client that I was talking to you guys about. I was like, they don't want to get to know me. Like, they don't care. And that's what you'll think. But I promise you, like, they do, you guys. They want to get to know you if and when you become that genuine, authentic self.
So I want to share this real quick, just because I want to have some time for Q&A, and this might also cover some of that. So guys, you heard Amber alluding to another event coming up. So there's a live QR code that you guys can actually click. You can register right now. If you found this valuable, obviously Amber had to kind of gave you, and thank you for that, Amber. I hope you guys took away as much as I did, with just like tactical things that you can actually put into place with what you're doing. Editable versions. All you have to do is message her directly. I think that right there will add tons to people's businesses. But can you guys all see my screen right now with the QR code? Hopefully this little whatever on the bottom isn't blocking it. But this is gonna where we're gonna do a full live event. For those of you that are not in our local market, this will be a live event in Washington State, everybody, for whoever's in Washington. You don't want to miss it. It'll be in person. This will be live streamed. So any of you guys that are in different markets, you can be there, but this is going to be a full deep dive. And I made it in bold right there, right? This is what Amber's done such an incredible job at, right? If you want to sell 20, 30, 50, 100 homes, right? How do you create this type of system and to make your clients, I love this, clients obsessed. This is what I call Amber's business model. How to make your clients obsessed with supporting your business. this is where you're going to get a much bigger deep dive. So register. This will be more of a, Amber, probably more of a, it's a 3-hour event. We're going to have a little bit of stuff added to it, but this is where you're going to get a deep dive about 2 hours or so plus with Amber. So scan the card. We'll be promoting this as we go, but you guys can go ahead and get in now. Those asking how you click your QR code, you literally just go to take a picture of what's on my screen right now. And it'll make a little like yellow bubble around it where you can click on the QR code and it'll pop up. And actually,
The fact that somebody asked about how to
I
click
know,
on a QR code, it makes me not feel alone in this universe.
I know. I didn't know how to for a long time either. So I will drop in the chat right now for a few of you guys the actual Eventbrite link. That QR code just takes you to the Eventbrite link. So it's up. So let's go ahead and open up just for a few minutes here. I know we're going a little bit long, which is great. Let's do some open Q&A. The event's going to be Yolanda in Tacoma, Washington. And if you open the code, I'll drop the Eventbrite for you guys here, and then you guys can all see it.
Who's got some questions?
I do.
Let's go. Who said I do?
Brent.
Let's go, Brent.
Quick question. How do you build value, like maybe not value, but how do you build urgency with buyers that like you walk them through the process of getting them pre-approved? They're internet buyers. They come in, you get them over to MK or whoever your lender is. So they get a pre-approval, you go tour some stuff. And then how do you like light a fire into their ass? Cause I got like 5 that are pre-approved and they just kind of look at properties, but don't pull the trigger. Is there anything that you do?
Yeah, I do a lot of encouragement. We have those too, though, right now. We were just talking about that, how it's like, okay, this is kind of weird because usually we don't see that as much, but I think it's the market. But I do a lot of encouragement and I do side recon. So we've set all of our buyers up on an auto search, but because this market is so tough right now, we know that we had to step it up. And so I'm looking and I'm having those conversations and I'm asking more questions, right? And so I'm taking the control of getting them excited and asking questions. And if they see a house and they're like, I like it, but I don't want to see it, I'll ask them, okay, well, what don't you like about it? What's your pros and cons? And I tell them in my consult that I'm going to ask these questions. So I'm setting that expectation up front. And I tell them in my consult, when I ask these questions, I'm never trying to pressure you and I'm never trying to push you into anything. I truly just want to know what you're liking, what you're not liking. And then I figure out exactly what they like, what they don't like. And then I go try to find it for them. But there are some that it's the question of, are they truly wanting this? And it's up to us as the agents to figure that out. And there are some, if you DM me, I'll send you a script it's a reverse psychology script to figure out, are you genuinely wanting to buy or sell? Or do you just like the idea of it, but you're going to kind of freak out and maybe this really isn't the right step for you? And what that does for me is, number one, 90% of the time when you do this script, they're like, wait, what? No, I want to buy. Like, I'm not that person. I want to buy, right? And number two, the other 10%ers that decide to say, actually, yeah, you're right, I want to go rent. I stop wasting my time, but I still keep the relationship because they want to buy. It's just a matter of when.
Right. Do you think it's wise to ask if they're concerned with price or payment?
Absolutely. And I would ask that in your consultation. And even the ones that are like, I don't really care about the payment. I want a $500,000 house. I probe and I say, no, I totally understand that. But do you have a max? And a lot of times, at least the clients we have, they have that max. And I'm doing that upfront before I show them any homes in that consultation when I'm asking those questions.
Right. And then the last thing is, do you have the conversation about marrying the house, but dating the rate?
I did at first until everybody started using that exact sentence. And my husband is more like this than me, but I feel like it's kind of been ingrained in me now. We hate to say the same thing that everybody else is doing. So what we do is we basically take that, and I do say it in my current market update, but I stopped saying that exact sentence because I started hearing it everywhere. And I'm like, my competition's probably saying this, so let me say it, but in a different way.
Yeah.
But I absolutely do that. And I show them the facts and stats as I'm basically talking to them about that.
Yeah, because I'm a high driver and I try not to get frustrated because, you're trying to be a problem solver, right? They've got a problem, you're trying to solve it. And I try not to get frustrated, but the high D in me is like, pull the trigger on something, man. Like,
Yep. I'm very high D, like to a fault, I feel like.
Yeah.
The biggest advice I can give you, and you can text me or message me and I can kind of see what you do in your consult and maybe poke some holes, but everything I do in my consult is setting me up. So I rarely have that issue because I take all the time up front. I saw somebody in the chat ask how long my consult is. I have
75 pages.
I have the longest consult. I've sat in so many masterminds with high producers and they laugh at me because I have such a long consult. You don't need a 2-hour consult, but I have a 1.5 to 2 hour buyer consult. My listing walkthrough takes me about 45 minutes. And then I do a follow-up Zoom. That's about an hour and a half. Why I do that is because I don't chase my business after that. And I'm basically setting them up and they do exactly what they should be doing. And I do have those rare times where I'm having to have deeper conversations and it's taking a little bit longer, but I would say it's not a huge part of what I do because I do my consults the way I do.
Okay.
And she wins. Who else has a question?
Talk about a thorough presentation if nobody has questions.
That's what I'm talking about. Just like your buyer presentation.
I have a question.
Right?
I have a-
Supposed to be.
I have a question, Amber.
Go ahead, Amber.
This is Brittany, but so my question is, let's say for instance, like you mentioned that you had a buyer that is going to be ready in the next year. So, and then you also mentioned to also have your buyer sign the buyer agreement or whatever. So I'm assuming that you're talking to make sure that you do that after they get pre-approved, or I mean, of course you have that relationship already set up. So like, I don't know if I just answered my own question, but what would you suggest in that case for those buyers that you received in that relationship base that's going to be ready like next year?
Yeah, good question, actually. So never take a lead for granted, even if it's a hard referral. I learned that the hard way. Always follow up consistently. If they're not ready for a year, I usually touch them once a month. And I touch them with value. I'm not just like, hey, how's it going? Right? Like I'm bringing them actual facts about the market. And I will sit with, it depends on the situation. I'll sit for my consult before they're pre-approved if I know I'm getting shopped, because I know the second I sit with anybody, I'm going to kill my competition. They're going to sign with me. My consultation is set up to where I sign people at the end of it. That's why I'm a huge advocate for have a consultation that works for you and set yourself apart. So if I know I'm getting shopped, and even if it was a referral, they still shop me, like Chloe said, then I will sit with them before a pre-approval, but I usually try to tee it up to where I do send them over to MK and then they get pre-approved because part of my consult is going through their actual finances. And I tell them that up front, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm not pre-approved. She doesn't even want to sit with me. Right. So I call out that elephant in the room. I tell them why I'm going to wait, unless they want to. And then we sit for that consultation. If they're that far out though, like I have the dad of my client going to be coming here in about a year. I haven't sat with him yet. That's a little bit of a risk, but I know that he's not looking for anybody else. He knows that he's going to be working with me. He's already told me that. And so I am touching him on a monthly basis. And then right before he comes into town to look for homes, I'm going to do my consult with him, sign him. So I won't show a house unless they've signed with me.
Amber, I'd like to ask you a question on behalf of 5 that actually has to do with buyers. Now, you talked about the importance of getting a buyer's agreement signed. I think that's one of the most overlooked things in real estate. It's like a lot of people who are working lead gen will get a lead from a buyer who wants to go open a door, right? Who wants to go see a property. And most agents will just go out there and actually show the property and have a conversation with them, and then they're out. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, I'm going to show them a property again next week, right? The importance of the buyer's consultation and actually getting their attention, commanding their attention, rather than just be that Uber driver for doors, right? How would you recommend that they set that up, right? So obviously the lead comes in, they have to go over there and open a door. Like, at what point are you setting up a consult? Because I'm sure that you get the same clients who just, Amber, I want to go see this house.
Yeah. So in the beginning of my career, when I was getting those, like, so we don't pay for any leads. So I don't get internet leads, anything like that, because of what we've built. I've never done that. But if I get a call from one of my first sales signs, that's what kind of happens. I will give it to my showing agent and and that way she can kind of practice. But I will give, if it's a situation like that and it's not like in my referral base, I will give one freebie sometimes. But a lot of times I just tell them, you know, what we do works. And I'd be doing them a disservice if I put the cart before the horse. And if I show them this house and they're not pre-approved, or I show them this house and they're not fully educated on what's going on, they're not going to have a good experience and I'm going to waste their time. And then I go into that and just have that conversation. And by the end of that phone call, 99.9% of the time, they're like, oh man, thank you, Amber. Nobody really cares about that. They'll just go out and show me a house. Yeah, I guess I'll sit with you. Right. And they don't realize what they're sitting for yet. But then by the end of my consult, because it's so jam packed with value, they're like, yes, nobody has ever taken the time with me. Let's sign and then let's go. And if somebody's going to say, well, if you don't just go show me this house right now, then I'm just going to go call somebody else. For me, I tell them to go call somebody else because we're probably just not a good fit. And sometimes it is okay to do that.
Love it. Anybody else have any questions for Amber?
I've got a question. Hey Amber, this is Gagan. I got 2 questions. Number one, is there any way that we can possibly see your buyer's presentation and see what it looks like? And question number 2, I know you said give value once a month for people that are like a year out or so. Could you describe what the structure of that call would look like? Let's say you rang someone up, right? Like what's sort of the first things that you say?
Are you saying with like my follow-ups?
Hey, what's sort of like the middle part, and you ask?
Cooley, can you hear him?
I have
hear
no
him.
idea what he's saying.
Muted
But
himself.
just basically, what does that call look like? When you're calling with value, what exactly do you mean by that? So you're giving market updates, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So what we do is we have all of our notes in our CRM, and I'll be completely transparent. When the heat of the market came, we got really lax with this, and we're honestly now playing catch up because we weren't taking as many notes as we should. Thank God for Ryan, my husband. He is very, very systematic with this. And so no matter if it's me calling my past clients or a follow-up, or if it's somebody else on my team, there's always very detailed notes on personal things within that conversation. So that way, when I call, I can just pick up where I left off. I also have them fill out a buyer questionnaire. Now, we don't really share our entire consult because we've worked years to build it. But we do share our questionnaire, and we do share little pages like this that we can share with you guys. So if you guys want, I send everybody a questionnaire first and foremost before I even do anything with them. And that questionnaire is built to really find out what their goals are, but also find out about them. And so I'll look on that questionnaire. I'll have my notes. I'll figure out, okay, why are we waiting? What area are they looking in? I've already done all of this homework in that questionnaire. And then when I call them, I'm usually either calling them if I've had a listing go pending, and I will tell them, because real experience is what works for me. But if you don't have a listing going pending, just look at another listing and say, hey, I'm looking in the area. This is what's going on with A, B, and C listings. They just went pending within 4 or 5 days. Or, hey, Mr. Buyer, rates kind of rose a little bit. Just want to let you know. But the great side of that is I'm starting to see listings sit a little bit. So we might be able to get more of a deal when you are ready, in a couple months, right? Or if they're a year out, I just touch base with them and I say, hey, has anything changed? Here's your market update on the areas that you're looking at. If they're numbers people, you can also just call them and tell them, like, if they live here in the area, hey, there's a concert in your area. Are you going to that? Right? Just come with some sort of value, but it doesn't always have to be real estate. And for me, I just called somebody I haven't talked to in like 6 months. Which is not very often for this, but she kind of fell through and I wasn't doing my system, right? And I called her and I said, hey, and I knew that she was possibly wanting to buy right around now, but I hadn't talked to her in a while. And I said, hey, and I know she's on my social media, right? So she gets touches from me, but I said, you just popped into my head the other day. I'm so sorry. And I'm so embarrassed. I haven't really touched base with you. And for some reason, I just felt like I needed to call you. How are you doing? What's going on with you guys? You guys still looking to buy in the future? Or sometimes I won't even add that in because it'll organically come out. And she said, oh yeah, I actually live in Boise, Idaho. And I said, cool. Like, why'd you end up going to Boise? And she said, well, I got a job out here. And she was like, and I'm so glad that you called me because we're actually not looking to buy anymore, but we do want to sell our house. And I said, okay, well, what does that look like for you? And then she was like, we're getting a divorce. And I was like, oh God. And then we kind of talked about that. And then it just went into that conversation. And then I booked the appointment, and now I'm going to go do a walkthrough tonight at her house. And so I can't tell you this is what you're going to say every single time. All I can tell you is bring the value, find a reason to talk to these people. And if there's nothing to do with real estate that you have to talk to them about, just find something else or something cool to do, figure out from their questionnaire what they like to do, research it, and then call and talk about that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else?
I'm like,
Amber, you might have talked about this already, but were you always a full-time agent since you started, or were you also doing a little bit of TC?
So that's a good question. I was a TC, and we were broke. So you'll hear about this in September, but me and my husband were close to $100,000 in credit card debt when I got my license. We had no money in the bank, and that's probably why he had a heart attack when he was in Korea, because he's like, what are you doing? And so I negotiated with my team lead at that time, and I said, will you give me 30 days on W-2 while I just kind of start to fly here? And he didn't want to, but he did. And before I jumped in, I was already being relevant on social media and doing the activities. But I was full-time agent, and I did end up paying him back for that. And he ended up only giving me 2 weeks at the end of it. And then when I launched my team, that kind of came on a whim too. That was also not my plan. I didn't want to break off from that team, but I just needed to, just because of our alignment. And I had $2,000 in my bank account and a shit ton of debt. And I was terrified. And within 2 days of launching my team, I hired a TC. And I told that TC, I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay you in the future, but like, let's do this, because I can't do this without a TC, because I knew that I needed to be fully in my job. And then that pressure just made me run even faster. And we closed 50 deals that year.
Wow.
So I would say that not having the money backing and not having the backup plan was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's the scariest thing, but I had no excuse other than to just fly, basically.
You want to take the island, you burn the boats. Anybody else?
Yeah, what would be your top 2 things to do immediately today to generate business? You know, if there's door knocking, there's social media marketing, there's cold calling. What are like the top 2 things? Like, what advice would you give somebody?
Yeah,
On the Breakfast Club.
go on the Breakfast Club. Absolutely.
I'm extremely good at that, by the way.
Nice. Stop planning, start doing. Number 1, I'm going to give you 3, but number 1, stop planning. You're going to do your consult, but don't take 6 months to do your consult. Just go get the business and book the business. For me, because of what I am good at, and what I found that I was good at, number 1, door knocking. Guys, I door knocked apartments, which you're not supposed to do that. So I'm not going to tell you to do that, because I think it might be illegal, but I did because I wanted to think outside of the box. I didn't want to door knock the same areas that everybody's door knocking, right? And so I door knocked apartment buildings. I would look for the crappiest reviewed apartment building that I could find. And then I would come to that door knocking session with flyers for a class. So calling your lender, doing a class, come with value. Or I would have just an event in the area or something that you can provide to them that's not just, do you want to buy a house? Right. And so I would come to that, and then I would literally dodge security guards. I never got caught. And I would door knock that. So door knock, but come with value, build a class, number 1, or build something that you can invite them to. And then you'll book the appointment when they come to your class. Get their information when you're door knocking. Don't just leave. Always ask for the information, even if they slam the door in your face. And then the second thing, social media. I was always naysayed on social media, and that's long game. So door knocking for me was short game, and that's when I got my right now leads. Social media and referral base, that's my long game. So I'm building my business for 5 years down the road right now.
Love it.
I'm really loud too. I've been up since 5:30 and I'm super energized. So I'm not
I have
yelling at
one
you.
more question for you, Amber.
The whole time.
One more question,
Go ahead.
AJ.
Last one.
Yeah. Amber, so when you said you went out and hired a TC when you had no business, what did that conversation look like? And what were you putting on their plate if you had nothing to really give them?
Yeah, I knew the person and she knew my vision, and I kind of found the right person at the right time because she was in a point in her life. She was also a TC. She was a point in her life where she didn't really have a ton of pressure to make a ton of money. But if you don't know the person, I mean, for me, I was very transparent, and that's something that I have found with separating from my entire team 2 years ago and rebuilding now and building a team that we just run together and the culture is insane. And the one thing that I changed is be transparent and don't sell yourself, because they're going to join you. And then if you're kind of selling a fake version of what you're doing, they're going to end up finding out, and then they're going to either quit or not really be super bought in with what you're doing. But I gave my vision. And so that's what I would do. If you're in that mindset where you're like, I paid her well. I paid her exactly what I was getting paid as a TC, but I was very honest with, I don't know how this is going to work out. And I wasn't going to lie to her because it's her livelihood. But I would not talk about right first all of the hard work. I would talk about the vision and where you're trying to bring your business and where you're going to bring your business. I had a ton of confidence with that. And then I talked about the standards and what that looked like and where she can go, because people don't always need the right now. They want to know where you're going and they want to be a part of that. Right. And so think about and talk about that longevity of your business. And I promise you, if you have the right person, they're going to want to sign on with you. And if you don't have the right person, they're just going to talk about the money and what you're going to give to them. Don't waste your time with those type of people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think that's a wrap, right? I think we'll end with that, guys, for time wise.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Amber, I want to thank you for jumping on today. Guys, I look forward to all of you guys showing up to that event in September. That's going to be really fun because Amber's going to really dive deep into some highlights that she was giving you guys here today. But as you can see, tremendous asset, tremendous professional, tremendous businesswoman. And there's a reason why she's going out there and kicking ass, is because I'll tell you what, the one thing, you know, and I tell this to every agent that I coach with, right? Which is, if you can limit the why won't you do this conversations, right? And start having conversations about how you can build efficiencies and how you could do things better, you will propel in this business. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're dealing with your leadership or even within yourself, and you keep asking, or somebody keeps asking you, why won't you just do this, right? You're going to find yourself having the same problems. Now, Amber never had that problem, hustler mindset, and just kind of backdoored herself into problem after problem after problem that she had to solve. And it's one of the reasons why she's here today, is because she was focused on solving problem, and action was never a problem she had to solve. So Amber, thank you so much for joining us. Love your face. Guys, hope you took a lot out of it. And we'll see you next Tuesday or tomorrow morning on the Breakfast Club, 7:30. Let's go.
Thank you guys for having
Thank you,
us.
Amber.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.